to the glorious, iconic racetrack here in Germany. We are at the Nürburgring circuit for the full Grip Motorsport German Challenge. And what a day for it is here in Germany. My name is Matt Saunders. I'm joined by a new face in the commentary booth. It is Joe Smith. Joe, how are you doing today, my friend?
Hello, Matt. I'm all good. I'm excited to be here. Let's see. Excited to see some good racing and hopefully some fair racing as well.
Yeah, and for our German full grip challenge today, this means that there's only German manufacturers allowed out today, and so we'll be seeing our fair share of Audis, of Mercedes, BMWs, and the Porsches. And it's going to be interesting to see some of the lesser viewed vehicles and how the top stars of full grip motorsport really use them, especially that Audi, which I took for a test for a lot earlier today in both rain and sun, and I thought it was one of the weaker cars out there simply because of its lack of turning ability, or maybe not lack of turning ability, I should say, but maybe compared to others, lack of turning ability. That's what is feeling right to say, but I think with the right setup and the right amount of downforce applied, this could be a secret bomber in this course.
Yeah, we seem to have quite a few different, obviously people not sticking to one car. We've got quite a few Porsches, BMWs, Mercedes, Audis. So it'll be interesting. I mean, everyone's kind of sticking to what they know best, I guess. There's a lot of people sticking to certain cars they've driven before, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these top drivers are able to handle these cars during the race and during qualifying, which we'll be coming to you shortly as the rest of our drivers get into, well, finish up practice, I should say, as they go around the track one last time. But we do have some big names in here still. We have the likes of Wesley driving in a Mercedes today, who finished P10 the last time at at the Nuremberg for Wesley. But we also have Marius Issenger, the German in the Audi. One of the very few in the Audi, second in his last Nürburgring and second in the previous 3 races he's driven. And Joe, I want to ask you, what does that really do form-wise? Because Essinger was doing this in, I believe, a Ferrari as well. So to then go from a Ferrari where you're really in form to then going into an Audi, it's going to be difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I suppose for him it's whether he can manage the car, because I mean, obviously an Audi and Ferrari are going to handle very differently. They've both got different strengths, but he must have a lot of confidence if he's been second previous 3 races. So, won't put anything past him to get up in them top places still.
Yeah, definitely a contender. Definitely worth throwing your hat into the ring for that. But we will be bringing you about the balance of power, sorry, just shortly as qualifying will be beginning now. We'll bring you all the live updates onto qualifying, and I believe we might be set in for some maybe dodgy weather. No, not dodgy weather, just some clouds for now, but damp track conditions, so it'll be a lot less grip for these drivers coming into this qualifying session. What kind of effect does that have?
Well, I mean, there's a couple straights on this track, but there's a lot of hard corners. They're not exactly going gently on the brakes on this track. So they'll definitely, if the weather does pick up in terms of whether it might have a bit of rain or forecast starts to pick up, it might, they might have to change the way they drive on this track. Maybe brake a bit earlier, go a little bit easier into the corners, not burn their tires and their brakes up. But we'll have to see, I suppose, after qualifying.
Yeah, and so these damp weather conditions really going to be a big factor in towards who gets in the fastest qualifying lap. As you see, it's Javier Zambrano, the Spanish driver, just getting a bit loose out of pit lane there. We do have 10 minutes on this qualifying session, so it's going to be interesting to see who places where. 23 drivers involved for this full grip challenge, and possibly more, as we had the full sign-ups, and you can be a part of Full Grip Motorsport and join these type of races if you go to fullgripmotorsport.com, sign up, make an account, and you can join Discord from there as well. Or if you want to watch and be a spectator, you can subscribe to the Full Grip Motorsport YouTube channel and get all the latest updates on races such as these, the German Challenge at the Nürburgring. And so we now go with Michael Blom now, who is another one of our top drivers. P4 in the previous Nuremberg for Michael Blom, though. The lowest finish in the last 10 races was P6. So again, another driver on good form.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of drivers that are taking a lot of good motivation and drive into this race. You wouldn't think, especially Michel Blom. I mean, P4 in the last race and a lot of good finishes in the last 10 races. So as long as he's able to, gain confidence in the first few laps of qualifying, I'm sure he'll be way up there. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't.
Yeah, indeed, and we will be bringing you the latest action from qualifying as the racers go and set their first few laps out on the track, and it's going to be interesting to see. But we also do have a debutant here. I'm not just talking about Joe Smith in the commentary booth. In our race today, we do have a new Full Grip Motorsport debut for the American driver Thomas Caswell. You see in the Porsche on your screen. Not on your screen, sorry, but on the left-hand side. So, Joe, I want to ask you, when you come into a new area, a new racing sort of server like this, you go in, it's a completely new environment, new cars, new everything, new challenges especially. What kind of things are going for you when you go into this kind of new environment?
Well, you haven't got any pressure because obviously you're new to the environment, so you're trying to get a feel. Maybe the first few laps of qualifying race, he'll try and get a feel for how everyone's moving around him and how he can deal with the car well. But he's just got to find his rhythm, stick to it, and who knows, he could be up there. He could, have a good finish in this race possibly. But he's just got to keep with himself and not maybe overthink too hard of being in a new environment with a lot of tough competitors racing against him. So I'm wishing him all the best in this race on his debut.
Yeah, Thomas Caswell is definitely someone to keep an eye on, as you see Michael Blom drifting it around that final turn at the Coca-Cola curve. And so not a great that from Michael Blom, but I think getting into first just by attrition. 2:02.6 is a decent lap on this kind of damp weather, I should say. But Michael Blom, not so fast. Nîmes, who's also in this race, coming in 2 tenths behind. And that's another racer that we've not really seen too much, especially not recently anyway. Not during my time here, I should say. Definitely not during your time, Joe. The Norwegian, or previous Nürburgring races, the highest finish he got was a P4. And so you could see that as a good finish, obviously getting into that top 5. But it's still worrying that that's your highest when you look at some of the other competitors around them.
Yeah, well, I suppose you could look at it that way, but you could also look at his last race. He's only finished P2, so it's not like he's far off of going like near the top spots in these type of races. But again, it's kind of luck of the draw in these early stages. As long as they just got to get a good qualifying, and then who knows where they could end up. Again, with the weather, it's a major thing. But again, he's got a lot of. I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be full of confidence going into this based off his last result. And it always comes, a race win is always within reach when you finish near the top places, so anything could happen.
And on your screen there, Eric Lassard, we do have a new pole, or a provisional pole in Mari Sissinger, 2 minutes .09, so the Audi takes the lead for now as we are looking at Eric Lassard, who's not having the greatest qualifying so far and going quite slow throughout the track. And we'll go back to the BMW of not so fast Nîmes. Now, I drove the BMW earlier, and as much as I think the BMW is an okay drive, I'm not sure how it's going to compare to some of these other drivers, in particular the Mercedes and the Porsche.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to compare compare different cars, different tracks. Obviously, you're a bit more familiar with it in that sense of you've driven it earlier. But I suppose it depends on who's driving it at the end of the day, because any car can be a good car, but in the right hands, it can be a winning race car. So, I mean, there's a we got a new pulsar on top of Wesley going the 158.4 in the Mercedes. So there's not a lot between us at the moment. So
I think you were just calling me a bad driver there, weren't you, Joe? You were just trying to take a slight at me.
well,
And you know it's valid, but you know, harsh.
nah, of course I would never badmouth you, but again,
Yeah,
these
not live,
guys
anyway.
are the ones racing with all to race for at the end of the day. So they've got a lot more to risk than perhaps you do in your test drives.
And you can see now some sunshine coming down here in Germany. And Wesley setting up that fast lap 158.4 with one of the ATX drivers in P2, Nicolas Vettel, the French Porsche driver, setting that second place, provisional anyway, but we go on board with Colin Cruz, who is coming just around the back straight now in that Mercedes, and it's going to be interesting to see the lap time from the German driver as we go through the chicane now and heading towards the final corner. It'll be interesting to see what this front straight will say in terms of time, what can be done for Colin Cruz, who currently sits P7 and moves into P4, and so with only a minute and a half left, it's enough time for another lap as Wesley sets a new fast lap of a 157.3.
Yeah, he's really pulled it together in the second sector. He's gained well over 7/10 on the guy in second, and Shulev in second, so pulled away a bit, so they'll have a lot of catching up to do, the rest of them, if they want to get near that top pole position.
And here's Mari Sissinger in an absolute gargle of cars going around the Coca-Cola curve, but we'll go into it, get that currently sitting in P8, will move into P2 and 6/10 of a second away from Wesley, so still could be all to play for with under a minute left in qualifying. As Sissinger goes into turn 1, I believe there was a bit of contact between him and the Porsche there, as now it's Dave Pitt, P13, where will they end up with this lap? It is not going to be a moving lap for Mr. Pitt, as we now go with Shulev down, I believe it is this back, no it's not this back straight. We're now heading into the back straight, I should say. Just now going through the Schumacher S in towards Michelin and Warsteiner. Michelin curve and the Warsteiner curve. Here's Michelin now in towards Warsteiner. In towards... Oh, it's not Michelin and Warsteiner. I completely reading the wrong side of the track. This is the NGK chicane into Coca-Cola curve. And from P7th, where will Max Shulev end up? P6, I believe it is.
Yeah, indeed. I believe it's once the timings are updated, he will go into P6 for that time, for the time being. But let's see if anyone else crossed the line in the last couple of laps.
Wesley, who has actually lost the first place position now, and I believe it is to... It's not to Nicolas Vettel, it's actually Geoffrey Coco Bob taking that P1 position away. 157.2 as qualifying is over, and so it looks like Geoffrey Coco Bob will be your race leader unless Michael Blom can say anything about it. P5, where will Michael Blom end up? Still P5. So it will be P5 for the Dutch driver there. Now we go with Nicolas Vettel just coming in towards the Coca-Cola curve now. What time will the Frenchman set up? It's a P3 for now. It will not be improved upon. And so P3, Nicolas Vettel will remain. Wesley will be P2. And we go now, Geoffrey Coco Bob, who's coming around in towards the NGK chicane. And it's now looking like the Mercedes has got a bit loose there. Took a bit too much curb off, and so we'll take the Coca-Cola curve, but that time loss might have just cost Coco Bob everything, as it will still be P1 thankfully, but this could have been a bit better.
Yeah, a little bit out of sorts in the last few corners, but he's still in a good start position, so we'll have to see how he handles the starting procedure.
Yeah, and I did get that wrong actually. It is Wesley in pole position, Joffrey Coco Bob P2, Michael Blom in P3. Javier Zambrano, the Spanish driver, in P4, with Nicolas Vettel in P5. Max Kissinger dropping down in towards P6, Delta Bravo Dash in P7, Max Schuler P8, Klaus Christ in P9. I believe that is, again, a lot of racers in here. Colin Cruz, German, in P10th. We have Not So Fast Nima in P11, Geoffrey Aythox in P12. We have Lucas Ritala in P13. We have again a lot of names on here, lot of names. So you've got to
yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, you got just under 2 minutes left to the start of the race. So a lot of these drivers want to get off the line, have a good start, try and mind turn one, try not to get into any little crashes and medleys of sorts. But we'll have to wait and see, because I bet these guys want to get ahead, and obviously control the race from there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to try and see how each driver gets ahead. There is a mandatory pit stop as well during the race, so drivers will need to take that pit stop and change. I believe it is a tyre change there. But it is only a 1 hour race, so a lot shorter than we've seen before, and that puts a lot more pressure on each racer that isn't Wesley in first, I think, Joe.
Yeah, well, they'll all try and fight for position at the start, won't they? They'll obviously want to get off the line well and try and maintain the lead, or with the leaders as such. But yeah, with that 1 hour less time, obviously it's less time than usual. So who knows? Obviously they've all got to come in for a pit, so maybe you have to time it obviously accordingly to try and not have too much traffic when they come out.
Yeah, but we will be getting into our formation lap in just a second. Wesley in P1 will be the one to set each racer off on the tyre warming lap, and Wesley going sideways there. So, what power from Wesley, and I think that just shows an ambition, eagerness, to get this race underway.
Yeah, a little spin. That didn't hurt nobody, but don't worry, I'm sure on the start he won't make that same mistake. But yeah, we'll have to see who wants it more, I guess. You can't be slow off the start. You go slow and sets a bad tone for the start of the race and possibly the rest of it. So.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing on my other screen, Wesley's actually just drifting around each corner. Wesley fully just went sideways on one of the corners. Like, he's just having fun with it at this point. The race hasn't even started and already having fun with it. You have to actually see Steinbrecher going and stopping in the middle of the track, because Wesley's taken a pit. I'm not sure if that's due to a penalty or what, or if that's just Wesley starting from the pit to be Wesley and show off the pace. But either way, Geoffrey Coco Bob will be the new race leader, and you can see Steinbrecher also now in the pits will start from there. So I don't really know what that's about.
Yeah, it's an odd start, but I suppose if they must have their reasons, obviously, unless they're extremely confident in their abilities. But of course they should be, as they're in this race for a reason. That's one reason only, to win. So, but yeah, we'll have to see why that is. Maybe we'll find out towards the start, maybe. But a bit odd.
Yeah, and so your pole driver will actually be Joffrey Coco on Michael Blum in P2, and then Javier Zambrano, sorry, in P3. And that will be your top three. And so Coco Bob hasn't even started the race and is already getting a position. So, you know, it's already coming up successful for the French driver.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. Let's see, his last race here he was P3, so who knows if he is able to hold position.
Yeah, will definitely be interesting to see what happens if Coco Bob is actually able to keep the position, and you know, maybe it will be. You know, it will definitely be interesting to see how the Frenchman does in this race. As we haven't gone to the Nürburgring in a while for a streamed race, and so it's a nice way to return back to Germany. Maybe next time we'll include the Nordschleifer as well.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully, if we get someone, you know, it'd be really intriguing then. But they're coming up. They're coming up to the final corner now. Coca-Cola curve, just getting their starting positions, and hopefully they're all eager to get off the start line.
Yeah, well, Joffrey Coco Bob is going to be praying for a good start here, because otherwise, I mean, it will be so difficult, I think, to regain places in this track. But you will be heading now to the start-finish line, and it is going to be a green light, and away we are for the full grip German Challenge. It's a good start by Michael Blom, but Coco Bob keeps up. And going towards turn one, it's going to be interesting to see the chaos that happens here as Coco Bob still remains in P2. And we can just see that through his aerial cam, there has been a spin. I believe that's Chevenek who's been spun around and spun around again. There's a big crash into turn one.
Oh no.
Dave Pitt, I believe that's gone into the wall there. So big crash in towards turn one, but further up the field, Joffrey Coco Bob has properly lost that position to Michael Blom and now has to reside in second. But it's a great start for the Dutch Porsche driver.
Yeah, it's a good start. Let's see, it looked like Coco Bob was a bit slow off the line and got caught right as the light went green, so they have to try and make that back. Oh, Michel Blom's just got a bit wide off the track onto the dirt for a bit, so this could be his time to come back now.
Yeah, and this is the exact time Joffrey Coco Bob wants that mistake and will make that re-overtake in towards P1 now for the Frenchman, as Michael Blom has to live with the mistakes for now, but still keeping in tow behind them. Javier Zambrano still able to keep in towards P3. Nicholas Vettel and Marius Hestra able to keep their starting positions in P4 and P5 as Coco Bob will go around these corners now as we head in towards Ad Van Bergen, and Ad Van Bergen, here we go. This is the one big straight on this course, on this circuit, so it's going to be interesting to see how they take the NGK chicane. There's a lot of corner being taken by Joffrey Coco Bob there. Still is able to hold it and managed to go through the Coca-Cola curve, and so Joffrey Coco Bob will just about remain in P1, but I mean, what a first turn there.
Yeah, there was a lot of from both the top two leaders. There was a bit of had a bit of problems across the whole lap. One of them went off at the start, and then middle of the lap, and then towards the end. So they'll have to settle down a bit if they want to continue to stay at the top. Otherwise, the rest of the pack might stay with them and eventually eat them up. Especially if there's a pit stop mandatory. So we'll have to see. Everyone has to calm down a bit. It looks like there was only one. Looks like it was only Simi Steinbrecher who was majorly affected by the crashes earlier on. So hopefully he'll make his way up to the back, and we'll see everyone a bit more closer together still.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the damage that has been done in towards that crash as we now look at Ludwig Vital now and Nassavas Neem towards back end of this, well, front group anyway, as Niemann still tries to get past Klaus Christ, but German will hold off for now, as we do have another spin. It's Delta Bravo Dash and Max Shulev in the gravel. I believe Shulev the Russian. I'm not sure what happened there, but 2 Mercedes down again. So Mercedes are being very finicky this race so far for the drivers.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There's the 2 at the back of, obviously Wesley started from the pits, but yeah, I don't know. It's a bit odd, but obviously you still got Coco Bob at the top at the moment in the Mercedes and Cruz in P6. So we'll have to see how it goes. As Claus Crash in P7 goes a bit wide on the dirt there, so everyone needs to, get a feel. They're a bit all ropey at some of them, so who knows? It might be a race for anyone to overtake at this point.
Yeah, look at this. Dave Pitt is making the overtake now onto Geoffrey Atox. His 2 teammates for ATX will be fighting towards the front straight, and it's actually Atox going to come back in, and it's also going to be Dominic Sheila who's going to come in as well, overtake Dave Pitt. And now this could be a battle. Now it's gone from Dave Pitt fighting Geoffrey Atox to now Dominic Sheila having to hold off against Dave Pitt, and Sheila still in with a chance of going towards Geoffrey Atox. So that you can see that damage to the front of Dominic Sheila is going to have an effect on the number 67 car. And as we go through these turns, definitely sector 1, it's definitely going to be an interesting thing, but it's spun out. Sheila touching the grass a bit too much and will be forced to go into the gravel because of it.
Yeah, he seemed to be all out of sorts in them 2 corners, but he went a bit wide onto the dirt, and then as he tried to come back on, he seemed to lose it. So it seems there's a couple corners that are catching a few drivers out, but again they'll have to try and manage it because they've got a long way to go. So as you see, Wesley is currently chasing down Shulev.
Yeah, look at this. Shulev is going to go a bit wide, so Wesley has a door open, but quickly shut by the Russian again. So it's going to be interesting for Shulev to see how long they can keep this up, because we know Wesley's speed is incredible, and Shulev, definitely hasn't been here for a while, but back-to-back P1 finishes at Spa from previous 2 races, but last Nürburgring finished P7th, and there's a spin-off from Max Shulev. I'm not sure if there was contact between him and Wesley, but either way, Shulev is in the grass and Wesley gains another position.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the tires aren't gripping as much as they think they will, because they're all having a couple moments across the track, in different corners, mind you, but they seem to maybe be accelerating too quickly at the corners, and the tires are the backsman is just catching them off guard.
Yeah, and also to bring you some news on an early penalty with Ludwig Rittala, did get a 10-second time penalty for avoidable contact during that first lap incident, and so that has been given to the German. And meanwhile in the pits, I believe that is Richie Rich, the Czech driver, now going through the pits, getting that damage repaired from that first lap incident. So he's going to take a big time hit, but meanwhile Dave Pitt having to defend against Wesley now as we go on towards the hairpin turn, and it's an easy move for Wesley to make on the inside. And so from a pit start to P12, Wesley is doing alright for himself.
Yeah, first 7 minutes in, and he seems to be cruising through the rest of the field. So we'll have to see how he gets when he gets close to the top runners, who are obviously trying to create a gap on the rest of the field. But yeah, it seems Kokopol's pulled a gap now on Michel Blom. So we've got, who's this? Is currently Claus Crass hunting down Cruz in 6th and 7th. So as he brakes a little late going into Coco the curve, and now it opens up Claus Crass to come down the straight and see if he can get him on the turn 1.
Yeah, not able to though, and as you see at the top of the screen, Max Shulev has got a penalty as well, a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. That is on the lap 1 incident, so yet another penalty going out for that first lap incident. As you see, Wesley now just behind, I believe that's Joffrey Aithox, yes it is, and is actually going to look to make a move on the fellow Mercedes driver. This goes around the outside of turn 2. Try and get ahead, and that's exactly what he does. Keeps it on the outside, but quickly reverts back to the inside as we go towards Halkagen. So, an interesting start for Wesley, from P1 to going into the pits to now back to P10. Definitely been one of the better races so far, but maybe it's Wesley showing off a bit as we look now towards Marius Issenger and the Audi. Not spoken too much about the Audis, but just because there hasn't been too many of them, but it's now the German driver looking to break into the podium spots by chasing after Javier Zambrano, the Spanish driver.
Yeah, he's staying with him. That's probably the closest battle of the front runners at the moment, so we'll have to see. As again we're looking at Klaus Kras and Cruz and 6th and 7th going at each other. We're going back and forth, and it looks like he's got the position this time, but he's not out of it yet. He's still got some work to do to keep him behind, going up to the... Looks like we're approaching the chicane quickly, and then hopefully he can keep it on the track. He goes a bit hard into the corners, so we'll have to see if he keeps a position on this back straight.
Yeah, you see it at the top of your screen as well. Look at Harla with another penalty for brake checking. The driver behind them is Issenger's looking to try and get moved done on to Javier Zambrano, but he's not going to be able to enter towards turn 1. What about turn 2? How are you feeling, Issenger? Veteran of full grip motorsport, but not someone we see much in the Audi, and so be interested to see how he fares. But you see at the bottom of your screen there, I believe that's not so fast. Nîmes actually going to be overtaking Klaus Christ as well, so another position change in the mid track as you see Issenger still trying to chase Javier Zambrano around. And this is one of the things that I was thinking about when I was doing my test drives earlier with the Audi, is that yes, it has this speed that you can get, but I think you have to sacrifice some of it to be able to get some good downforce that's equal to cars like the BMW, like the Mercedes, who are in these corners good at taking them with speed.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to find the balance though. When you're always in a different car, you're always the anomaly, the outlier. You're a bit, people don't really know what to expect of the car in such ways, but he looks like he's sticking with him. He doesn't want to give him even a second to think about slowing down or going a bit easy into the corners. So this might open up in the next couple of laps. You would think, as he goes a bit, Zambrano goes a bit on the dirt, but he seems to keep holding position at the moment.
Yeah, now towards the entry chicane. This is where I think we're expecting to see a lot of spills from the drivers today, and you can already see Issenger having to slam into the brakes there. I think Zambrano got a bit loose heading towards it, so Issenger slowing down as a result. But this could mean that down this front straight, after the Coca-Cola curve, Issenger can make a move done maybe, especially considering they're in the slipstream as well. Goes out wide to try and make a move, instead tucks back in, but goes in towards the inside, turn 1 here again, as Issenger looks to try and make this move done, but instead it's Zambrano keeping it steady, although going wide in towards turn 1, and so now Issenger presented with another opportunity, but instead has to just read the back of Zambrano for now, but looking to make a dive onto the inside. Issenger still keeping up with Zambrano. We'll get into P3 for a second, but Zambrano has the inside line there. To go out of the Mercedes arena, it's Issenger to snap up into P3, and a great move to get that done.
Yeah, you gotta give props to Zambrano as well. He left the space. He didn't want to push him off the track and risk getting a penalty, but it's cost him a position at the end of the day. So he'll have to try and stick with him and see if he can gain the position back in the next, well, as soon as possible. But that'll be one to watch as the race goes on. As see a couple of other drivers. Wesley's made a lot of time on the driver ahead of him, of Ludwig Ritthaler, so maybe as well, you'll see hopefully everyone is gonna join the party at some point.
Yeah, it is a party in that mid-pack, isn't it? And it's one that Wesley could get bogged down in if not careful.
Ooh,
but we'll see, and it's Zambrano behind Issenger, tries to go too much and ends up spinning it out, taking a bit of damage from the wall as well. And that's just BM. I think you saw him spinning out at the end there. And so Zambrano falls all the way to P7. Could be more, as now look at Michel Blom in P2, who is 4.5 seconds away from Joffrey Coco Bob. And you can see there Javier Zambrano from P3 now to P9 after that spin. It's definitely not in his favour.
Yeah, and he's got Wesley right up behind him now, so I doubt that's probably one of the last people you want to see in the current racing form he's in. But you would think that there has to be a little bit of damage at least to Zambrano's car in the current way that he was spinning all over the place, as it seemed, and then touched the wall. But we'll have to see if he dives into the pit sometime soon or he's able to manage it.
Yeah, well, the pit window isn't open yet, and so driver's not able to take the man through a pit stop. It's only a 15-minute window, so each driver gonna have to be very specific of when to go in. Don't have the luxury of a wide open pit window, as we still see Wesley chasing. Actually, Javier Zambrano is holding the BMW quite well in towards these turns, and Wesley struggling a bit to catch up.
Yeah, he's struggling in these first few corners, but we know that his middle sector is where he made all the time in qualifying before obviously he went into the pits to start. But he seems to just be waiting behind the two in front of him, Colin Cruz and Javier Zambrano for the time being. Oh, they're scrapping away, and he looks like he's seeing opportunity now to go up the inside.
Yeah, and on the bottom right of your screen as well, you see Michael Giela, the Czech driver, fighting with Aya Smissa now, Dutch drivers. We see Zambrano now right behind Wesley as he gets that move done, and Wesley is going to go for a bit more now, has the opportunity to, as Colin Cruz is now under attack. Wesley going to go towards the inside here, and it's a fairly routine move, gets a bit loose there, and so it allows Cruz to get back in towards this fight. And Wesley has a brilliant exit on that corner, and so we'll take that position. And you see Zambrano there as well, now fighting with Kraus, and so this is now a three-way battle where Kraus can lose so much time, instead just going to break it early, allow Zambrano to have that position, and will sit in P10.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, hang on a second. Zambrano, you just saw go wide.
Yeah, he's struggling at the moment, it seems, on these, whether it's these tyres or something, because he's a bit loose on some of the corners, but he's still holding down P9 at the moment. He's got a little gap to Colin Kraus, so hopefully he'll try and expand that if he can, but try and stick with Wesley as they go up the field. But we'll have to monitor that.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how much time Zambrano actually loses. You already see losing time towards those front runners, and even towards Wesley now almost a second away. In fact, to make it a second away from the Dutch drivers. We go back with Marius Issenger now in the Audi, still keeping somewhat up with Michael Blom, but struggling to close the gap still, but is fairly solid in P3, sorry, providing there's no mistakes that Nicolas Vitolt behind them can capitalise on. But I mean, this Audi is a slight favourite of mine, but not on a track like the Nürburgring. I think it is a very fast car, but struggles with these types of tight corners, especially in Sector 1 here. Sector 2 and 3 can shout out a bit more, and that is exactly what it is doing now as we go out towards Alvanborgen now, and we head towards the NGK chicane. And it's times like this where we're expecting a few spills, and it was almost went from Messenger going a bit high there, catching the curb a little too much, and able to stabilise the car though, so it's not bad, but it's definitely a corner, the NGK chicane, that requires a lot more focus than I think any of the other corners in this track.
Yeah, seems to be catching out a couple, and they seem to be riding too quickly into it. Maybe they need to brake a little bit earlier, but they seem to be recovering well on the exit, so I guess they're seeming to manage bumping the curb a bit, maybe gain a tenth or two, and then maybe try and get a bit closer to the car in front of them. But Wesley is up into 7th now. He's overtaken Ludwig Rittweiler, so he's on his way. He definitely would put him up there. He's chasing them down.
Yeah, you can also see their last lap, a best lap for Wesley, a 155.637. So definitely someone to keep an eye on as we look back at Javier Zambrano now, who's also looking to put some pressure onto Ludwig Ridhala now, who we saw earlier has that penalty. And so Zambrano, I think, is just going to try and force a mistake out here. You can't really go toe for toe with someone who hasn't got damage, or at least as much damage as you. And speaking of damage, you see in the bottom right hand screen there is Kimberly Holder, and look how much damage that BMW has to the front of it. So much, but there's actually Zambrano looking to make the move now on towards Ritala, and has done so very expertly around the outside, and it is able, and Javier Zambrano now in P8, and really taking that damaged BMW up a lot higher than I think people would have expected. And you can see now actually here's Steinbrecher.
Ooh. Yeah, he's going around the outside. His slingshot is past the BMW pair, so they're now having a fight behind him for P13 and 14. Oh, here he comes up the inside of Dave Pitt. Oh, but he's gone a bit fast.
Oh.
He's slid off the track. Obviously, he's lost the position now, but he's gained it initially. He just carried a bit too much speed into that turn, but he's got the confidence to get past him.
I think a bit too much speed is a bit of an understatement there, Joe. There's so much speed. I'm surprised they didn't team up Paul Ricard with how far Dave Pitt went off there, but we'll go back with Islinger, who is actually gaining on towards Michael Blom. So it's going to be interesting to see how this really turns out as the fight for P2 really starts to take hold. Now, Islinger, I thought was going to look for a bit of a dive bomb there, but instead opting against it, and so the Audi is just going to look to close the gap, and Michael Blom's made a mistake there, gone wide, and now Islinger has the opportunity to go side by side, and will take that as well. You see Dave Pitt there, I think he's spinning, but Islinger is going to come in. Michael Blom now still defending for his life.
Yeah, it's from the bottom corner there, Alexander Etis and Dave Pitt having a little bit of contact, but didn't seem like anything that spun each other out, so we'll have to see how that battle fares out. But at the moment, Maurice Islinger is hunting Michel Blom down. He's not letting him get away from him for even a second. So, oh, these guys, Michel Blom's lost it a little bit coming out of that turn, and he's now side by side. Islinger's just got the inside line at the moment. As they come up towards the chicane, we'll have to see who dares. Oh, there's a little bit of contact.
Yeah, I think Islinger had to give up there. Couldn't keep it around the outside in towards the first part of that chicane. So Michael Blom survives in P2 for another day. But for Islinger, that's just grown your desire to get into P2 because you know you can do it. You know that Blom hasn't mistaken him. And so even though Blom has been on a fair bit of good form recently, lowest finish in the last 10 races was P6 for the Dutchman. Still, you know there's a mistake in him, and here's Islinger again going for it, and just not able to make that move stick, as you see Wesley in the bottom, just P7th now, just set a new fastest lap, 155.9, and it's someone that could be very quickly joining this battle for P2, P3, as you can see now Wesley overtaking not so fast Neen.
Yeah, it's like he's got a rocket on the back of his car, he's flying past him. It's incredible watching it, but we'll have to give him a bit more time if he wants to make up the field. He's got a lot of time to catch up on. He's still 3 seconds back from Colin Crash in P5, so
so we do have a replay coming for you for another instant that we didn't see. As you heard as well, the window is now open. Some stuff here, green box, and big crash. Is it big crash?
Big contact. Both cars seem to have their way. It's like the initial contact spun one out, and then the other one went heavy into the grass. But we'll have to see if anything comes of that. There's definitely a lot of penalties going around at the moment.
Yeah, the majority of them are for that first lap incident that we saw it in towards turn 1. You see now he's going around the Coca-Cola. That's actually lost a lot of time to Michel Blanc. I'm not sure too much what happened there, but now he's, I think, under more pressure from Nicolas Vittel than he's actually putting out towards Michel Blanc. But meanwhile, towards the back of the pack is Xander Itus, another one of the Spanish BMW drivers in amongst the back of the pack. It's fair to say, right behind Max Schulev now, as you see a lot of dust being kicked up. I'm not sure where that's from, but I don't think it was from Max Schulev's, and so maybe Dave Pitt, who's just ahead, and you can see the damage on the Frenchman just ahead. And meanwhile, Steinbrecher has gone off again just in front of the pit road, and so Xander Itus is going to be in and around this. And you see as well in the background, there was a spin as Geoffrey Athox once again.
Oh goodness, they're all losing it in the last few corners, especially on that chicane going into the Coca-Cola curve. There seems to be a few of them in the recent laps. Whether it's losing their traction, as we see. Ooh, whoa! There's a lot of cars losing grip in these last few corners. That Dave Pitt has now got lost another position on turn 1. He's lost another one. There must be something up with his car, maybe. I don't know. He seems to be struggling.
Yeah, the damage hasn't been repaired, so I think that is on the main cause. But you see some cars now coming into the pits. Geoffrey Athox, Smith now in as well. Ronnie Rich, 2 going into the pits. As this battle between Xander Itus, Dave Pitt, and well, what was Max Schulev was continuing, but instead it's actually Kimberly Holder who's making up the positions. But here's Wesley in the bottom right hand of your screen, getting yet another position, entering P5, and so Wesley really making a big impact. But there's contact between Itus and Pitt, and he spun.
Big crash. Yeah,
and not willingly at all. Pitt's been spun by Itus.
Yeah, it looked like they were a bit out of sorts going onto the straight before the chicane, but there was a little bit of contact and it just spiraled Dave Pitt's car. It spun it straight around, so I'm not sure if they initiated the contact, but it looked like it was a big swerve.
Yeah, well, we have a replay here, as you can also see Not Fast Nima into the pits now. It just moves, so it goes a bit wide, but it just, I think the car was going to around, so trying to recorrect it, but by the time Reg was able to, it was went sideways.
I'm not sure he knew he was coming across too much. Dave Pitt seemed to cut across a little bit onto the track, and he contacted the car beside him and it spun him in a circle, so maybe he just needed to check his mirror a bit there to see that he wasn't cutting off the other driver. But
yeah, definitely will be understood. Guidance is Not Fast Name, you see in the bottom right hand side of your screen, into the pit lane now, getting away now in P16, so that is the BMW's hit done early. As we see, Marius Issinger still trying to fight with Michel Blanc to get towards this P2 spot, and I'm not sure who that is ahead. It's not Nicolas Vittel. It is Richie Rich, the Czech driver, currently sitting in P21.
yeah, he's gonna have to move out the way from the straight, so these two can. They won't interfere. There you go. He's out of the way, but these two are definitely going back and forth with each other. You would say that these two have been probably the two throughout the race that have been battling away. It's P2 and P3. But obviously someone's got to give at some point. As we see in the bottom right corner, another overtake, and that looks like it's. Ooh, what was that for? Looks like it's for P13.
Cervenak re-attack Dave Pitt, who again has gone wide. I'm surprised Frenchman hasn't gone in towards the pit yet, and maybe makes sense with the current record. Dave Pitt has finished P1 in last time they were at the Nürburgring, but out of the previous 10 races they've only finished once, and so makes a bit more sense when you look at it through that angle. But here's Marius Issinger again, as you see Geoffrey Athox a 10-second time battle each for causing a big collision. I believe that was the one we saw not too long ago, but Issager now really putting some pressure onto Michael Blom here.
Yeah, he's all over the back of him. He's been doing it for most of the race, but he just needs to, when he gets past him, he just needs to keep the car on the track, because he seems to be obviously the Audi's a bit different to the Porsche going into the corners, but he seems to be managing it well and just needs to. The Porsche drifts a little bit on the exit of that corner, but not enough to give him the opportunity to go in front. Oh, they nearly touch. And this could be the moment where he gets the overtake as they head up towards the chicane.
Yeah, it's more of an opportunity for him than he's had for a while, so he's going to try and outspeed the Porsche, but instead the Porsche will outspeed them down to Bravo Dash. You see up top of your screen with the drive-through penalty as well, so we'll need to go into the pits for that. We'll bring you the updates on that as it comes, but Issager still being held from P3, and I think frustration and anger is going to start to play a bit of a part. We've seen Issager before, I mean not Issager, but seen races before definitely get annoyed about what is happening around them when they can't make an overtake like this, and so it's going to be interesting to see how much longer Issager lasts before, I mean, either that angle or the pit window, because the pit window only 7 minutes to go. Both these drivers still need to pit.
Yeah, a lot of the top drivers need to pit. I don't think anyone. I think Colin Christ might be the top driver that's pitted currently out of the top runners, but I have to see who bites first and who falls into the pack. So after there's 30 minutes into halfway through the race now, so yeah, that pit time is ticking down.
Yeah, you see Max Julia coming into the pits now, and for a second I thought it was coming out, but instead he is going to go in and most likely going to get that bodywork repaired, and so be able to guide that car around as you go back with this, and Joe goes into the gravel a bit, so even more lost time. And we mentioned about Michael Blom's sort of mistakes and how they can be prone to mistake under pressure, but it's actually Issager who's the one making the mistakes here.
Yeah, he seems to, some of the corner, he seems to ride the curb a bit too much, and then it throws the car out of, the car doesn't like it, and then he has to correct it of sorts, and it loses him a tenth or two on the car, on Michel Blom in front of him. But Michel Blom seems to be riding the curbs in the chicane very well, as Issager dives into the pit, so he's bites first.
Yeah, Issager the one to formulate the plan of going into the pits, and definitely going to be interesting to see where Issager comes out, because Nicholas Vettel was not too far away, so it'll be interesting to see how that ends up. And another penalty for Sander Itus for crossing the pit exit line, something that's watched intensely by our stewards here at Full Grip Motorsport, and so we'll find who's coming for that. But you also see, I believe, that is Javier. Oh, names! Javier Zambrano coming into the pits now.
Yeah, so moves Wesley up into P4 at the moment. Obviously, he still has to pit as well, but there's a few more of the front runners starting to come in now, so it'll shake up the pack a bit, and we'll have to see where it starts to even out as the timer ticks down.
Yeah, you see there, Dave Pitt still not taking the mandatory pit stop, and I'm really surprised they've held out for this long, you know, especially getting a bit loose there as we go in towards the Coca-Cola curve, and making the overtake onto Servanaku is going to be heading in towards the pits. But there is Marius Issager, you see in the bottom right hand side of your screen, P8, and I believe Dave Pitt might actually be able to have a go at Issager into towards turn 1. Actually, I think Issager has just missed the mark. So, Dave Pitt's missed the mark, sorry, so not able to make the go of Issager yet. But Wesley, P4, phenomenal race so far, considering they started in the pits. Fastest lappers are 155.2. And I mean, the race pace from Lee and this Mercedes is incredible.
Yeah, he's finding time where others aren't, and he's lap times have been the 155s, middle or late 155s of recent laps. So he's been catching the drivers in front, maybe not as quickly as he would like, but he's been catching them as Michel Blom is now coming to the pits for his pit stop as well, and Wesley is up into the P3, so the top 3 for him at the podium at the moment. But again, a lot of these top 3 have to come in as well, so we'll have to see where they trickle out of at the end of the lap.
Yeah, just gone 4 minutes left of the pit window, so these drivers maybe have a lap, possibly 2, depending on the pace, if they want to actually be able to come in. Here's Ludwig Rittala now going in for their pit stop, and Wesley, as you mentioned, in P3 now, and is looking to try and get as much time to Nicholas Vettel before to go into the pits. But here's the question: is your Wesley, Joe? Do you try and pit before Vettel or after Vettel?
Well, I mean, if the pit window is closing, there might be a time where one of them has to pit before the other before it becomes obviously a problem. Obviously, you can't bank on the other driver not pitting, because then you're gonna inevitably ruin it for yourself. But then, it looks like Issinger's got ahead of Michel Blom now, so after his pit stop he seems to have gained quite a lot of time on him on that outlap. So
yeah, Blom was stood still in the pit lane. I'm not sure what happened with Blom there, but he's coming out of the pit lane normal and then just fully stopped and allows Issinger to get into P4. But I'm really not sure what happened with the Dutchman there and why that stop was forced. But here's Geoffrey Coco Bob now going into the pits. But Michael Blom, that's a mistake that could cost you so much in a race like this.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot between him and Issinger before the pit stops, so obviously he's got a lot of time to make up if he wants to get up, as the top 3 are all in the pits now. So this will definitely shake up the pack a bit. Let's see if Issinger is able to get around to see if he can gain as many positions as he can before they all sprawl out of the pit lane. But this will definitely be an nail-biter as they come out of the pit lane.
Yeah, Issinger still has so much time to try and catch up with, as now only just going not going even through, or has gone past the Schumacher, so now in towards the just got done with the Warsteiner curve, now heading into Advan, or again in towards the MGK chicane, and some of the front runners are definitely going to be coming out of the pits, mainly Geoffrey Coco Bob, as you see there on the bottom right hand side of your screen, coming out of the pits now as Issinger runs wide onto the Coca-Cola curve, and so I think Coco Bob is a stretch too far for Issinger, but can definitely get back into P2 with Vettel and Wesley still into the pits, although Vettel I believe is now heading out. Yes, you can see bottom right of your screen who's going to get ahead. Is it Vettel or is it Issinger coming out, and now Wesley coming out as well, but Issinger gets the jump on Nicholas Vettel, and so Issinger P2 and Vettel P3, Wesley not far behind in P4.
Yeah, so it's now a race to the finish. They don't have to pit no more, worry about any other thing stopping them from getting in the way. So after Michel Blom's not far off Wesley either, so obviously he lost a lot of time in the pits for some reason we're not too sure of, but we do have a replay, it seems, of Michel Blom's pit exit from his pit stop, so perhaps we will finally have an answer to why it was such a slow stop.
Yeah, and you just saw there's going from 0 miles an hour, just fully stopped on the pit exit. So it's a rare thing to see from any of these drivers, but especially one that's as experienced as Blom is, and definitely something that Blom will probably ask himself what happened with after the race. And I mean, I'm asking it right now, Joe, you're asking it right now, so there's definitely a lot of people that are going to be asking questions as you hear now the pit window now closed, as you see at the top of your screen. Richie Rich, stop and go penalty for 30 seconds, but on your screen right now it's a three-way battle for P6 between Klaus Kreis, Not So Fast Nima, and Javier Zambrano now.
Yeah, we'll have to see how these fare out. Obviously they're going close together, but we've seen in previous laps that when cars are close together and there's a chance to overtake, someone seems to love going over a curb, and it seems to losing time, and then they get jumped by someone else. So I have to say, they're all in BMW, so there's no advantage in that regard to corners and acceleration. So as they come into the final chicane for the Coca-Cola curve, they have to see if everyone keeps on the track nice and well. Yep, no one really spinning out, and now it's just a drag to turn one.
Yeah, and you saw Dave Pitt there serving a stop and go 30-second time penalty in the pits there, but it's still this big battle. But Zambrano and Neem can't get close to each other, let alone Neem to Christ. It's definitely a battle of the drivers right now, and possibly a bit of the setup. You just see Zambrano going a bit wide there as Neem takes that corner very closely to the inside. It's not a line that's usually associated with a corner like that, but Neem's made it work, but there's lost a bit of time to Klaus Christ, and still this three-way tow in the slipstream is pulling each other on nicely, but Klaus Christ could be the one to really ruin that, although Neem has actually gone very wide there and towards that tight right-hander, and so now heading towards a hairpin turn. It's be interesting to see if Nima can keep this position. And meanwhile, at the top of your screen now is Jeffrey Atox with Max Shuliev now, as Shuliev looks to make a move in and will do, but Atox comes back and Shuliev is gone completely off course at the NGK chicane. Shuliev has lost that place to Atox, and they even lose the place to the Porsche behind them, which I believe is actually Smisser coming in behind, but Shuliev is able to keep a steady ship for now, but Athox is going to be absolutely rammed. I'm not sure what happened there, but a lot of contact between Shuliev and Athox. I'm not sure what happened there. Athox seemed to have gone wide, but Shuliev went on the inside, and I'm not sure if it was a brake check or if it was just contact between Athox. I'm not sure what that was, but definitely a lot of contact.
Well, they seem to on the coming out of the chicane, they seem to bump. So he seemed to get a nudge on the back. So, you know, obviously sent him onto the grass. He did well to keep it steady and back on the track without crashing into anyone or spinning out. And then it seemed to continue down to turn one. So, well, that seems to be a bit of elbows out and bumping going on between them two. So we'll have to see if there's any penalties coming either their way. But well, we don't want to see two people smashing into each other of sorts. But these two are a bit of a rivalry going on.
Yeah, rivalry definitely, and we'll be going into a replay and seeing what happened there between Shuliev and Adox. And Stuart will be looking at it as well deeply, as here we go in towards turn one. It's a lot of braking from Adox there, gone wide, and Shuliev sort of panics.
Very deep.
I'm not sure if that's a line thing or if that is intentional from Athox. I mean, I've watched Athox a lot, and I'm sure it's not intentional, but it's definitely a mistake, and maybe just not expecting Shuliev to go on the inside like that.
Yeah, he seemed to brake heavily though, going up the inside, and then maybe as Athox was coming back across, he seemed to have either not seen him or just he appeared out of thin air. But I don't know, it's a weird one. I mean, they're both still battling away currently. Atox has dropped behind Smither now, so yeah, there's a bit of elbows going out in that little middle fight. But I'm on board with Javier Zambrano behind not so fast Neem right now, and he's very close. He's following the back of him.
Ooh. That's Delta Bravo Dash in the bottom right hand side of your screen, going for a spin there, but Zambrano is looking to make a move on the inside at turn one. Can they make it stick? And look how much speed Zambrano's gotten, and Neem's going to go for a switchback as Zambrano goes very wide there, and Neem has been given a very good opportunity for a switchback but not able to make it stick, and so Zambrano will get into P7 and finally complete his overtake on not so fast Neem.
Yeah, he went heavily deep up the inside, and thought he was going to get got by Neem, but he seemed to corner seemed to come soon enough, and he had the inside line to pull away. But yeah, everyone's trying to scrap away. We've got we've got 16, just under 17 minutes left, and there's a lot of fighting going on in the middle pack.
Yeah, it's all to play for, and if you want to be a part of these races, you can go to fullgripmotorsport.com, sign up for the races, and you can join the Discord from there to get more involved with these races. Or if you want to be a spectator, then you can subscribe to the Full Grip Motorsport YouTube channel and get every race and every notification about these races. But here is Wesley now looking to make a move in towards P3 of Nicholas Vator, and Vator's just going to give it up, allow Wesley to get in towards third, and so from last to third, and maybe a bit more in these last 16 minutes, Wesley making ends meet at the Nürburgring.
He's got a lot of time to make up to the front two though, Vissinger and Coco Bob, so we'll have to watch that. But you wouldn't bet against it. He's very fast on this track and seems to have the fastest lap time right now as well. So if he can pull together a lot more fast lap times, he could be well within it with 15 and a half minutes to go. But there's a big gap he's got to make up. He's got to put his head down and just drive as fast as he possibly can.
Every time I see the best lap of the race come from Wesley, I don't realise it's a new best, and then we go to Wesley, we see the best lap, and it's completely changed, and that just shows how good Wesley is in these races. I mean, we've seen it in past races. We saw it the last race at Paul Ricard, you know, with him, Chateau Vincho, especially fighting all throughout that race. Well, not all throughout that race, but at least the early part of that race. And he's keeping it in good form here as we now look back at Javier Zambrano, the Spanish driver. Now looking to put some pressure on Klaus Kreis, who for most of this race has not really had much of a challenge come. The only one really is Nîmes, but now has an angry Spanish driver just behind him and looking to try and make as many positions up as they can.
Yeah, Klaus Kreis seems to be putting his car in the right positions at the moment to keep Javier behind him, so as he bounces off the curb a bit there, he loses a bit of time, and that's so far as Nîmes is keeping an eye on that in case anything more comes of it. But these three are definitely, they keep him within just over a second between each other, them three anyway, and then who knows? Hopefully they're all waiting for a mistake, I think, from the other driver first.
Yeah, Zambrano is just waiting to try and pounce on a mistake, but he's not going to get any in this lap 23, and instead we'll have to keep waiting to try and get up as well. You see in the background there, not fast Nîmes, still not close, admittedly, but not too far away. Can definitely look to make a move, and so the pressure is not only on Klaus Kreis to not make a mistake, it's also on Zambrano to not make a mistake, because Nîmes is, I think it's fair to say, licking their lips at this.
Yeah, I suppose Zambrano's the one that's got to make all the decisions at the moment, because he's got to make sure he doesn't go too deep into an attack and then get eaten up by Nîmes when he tries to defend. But he seems to be sticking a bit more Klaus Kreis. He's pulling away a bit from Nîmes at the moment, so. Ooh.
Yeah, and Geoffrey Coco Bob has retired from this race. I'm not sure what happened with Coco Bob, but a retirement for P1, and so it's now Marius Issenger going in towards P1.
It definitely spices the race up a bit, because Wesley, you would think, is gonna come a bit closer to Issenger towards the end of this race, and of course Nicholas Vator is not far behind him either, so could be a top 3 battle going on towards the end of this race.
Yeah, and Issenger now having to get past the 554 Mercedes of Matt Shuliev, I believe. Yeah, and we'll get that done, but Wesley is approaching, you can see now, under 5 seconds for Wesley.
Yeah, It seems they'll probably have around 6 or 7 laps to try and catch him. So he's got to try and gain. Then you would think at least like 0.9 to a second if he wants to get close to Issinger. But it's easier said than done. But he's got all the.
And if you're Wesley, you're also hoping that, or if you're Maris Issinger, sorry, you're hoping that Wesley is held up a bit by Max Juliev under blue flag. Sure, has to give the space, but could hold him up a bit more, as we have had more news about Geoffrey Kokobob, who has disconnected from the race. So it is an internet problem for the Belgian driver. So unfortunate, or the French driver, I should say. So an unfortunate situation there, but it happens, and it's sad that it's got to happen to Geoffrey Kokobob this race.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because he was having a very good race and he was all by himself really. But now we've got a new race leader, so that's to monitor how Issinger defends for most of these gains on him towards the end. But currently we've got Javier Zambrano, who has managed to get past Klaus Kreis, so he's now up into P5, but Kreis is still on the back of him, so we'll have to see if they're willing to have a little bit more scrimmage of going back and forth between each other as they're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see as Price looks to have a look on the outside, but chooses not to, and we'll keep going as we now go past the Warsteiner curve in towards Ad Van Borgen, now towards NGK chicane, and Klaus Kreis is trying to keep up with the driver ahead of him, but Zambrano, the Spaniard's not surrendering just yet with only 10 minutes to go in this race, and Klaus Kreis looking to try and get back in towards that top 5, but Zambrano, considering they started in P3, definitely interesting to see if they can reclaim at least a top 5 finish, but I think anything more than that is a bit of a lofty dream.
Yeah, you wouldn't think he would catch the rest of the pack unless a heavy crash or spin out or some sort of major thing happens. But this seems to be the battle for 5th at the moment. These three are even not so fast. Neem is not too far behind. He's fallen away a little bit from these two, but these two are definitely fighting out for that 5th position.
Yeah, P5 on the cards for both of these drivers, and definitely ones to watch out for as we go towards the checkered flag at the end of this. But as we now go towards Dunlop Kera, we'll just see Klaus Kreis still just over a second away from Javier Zambrano. But now we'll go back to Wesley, because of course we will, and just look how much time they're gaining on Maris Issinger, 3 seconds away from the Audi driver, and with 8 minutes to do so, I think it's much more possible than you would have thought at the start of this race.
Yeah, if you're Issinger, you're hoping that finish line, that checkered flag comes sooner than the 8 minutes remaining, but he's got to have to hold on if he wants to win. He's got to show us if he how bad he wants it without obviously causing a collision or being too aggressive. But Wesley's obviously on the prowl. He's hunting them down, so he's we'll see. Hopefully in a couple laps time, hopefully we'll have a battle at the end of the race.
Yeah, and we've seen how Maris Issinger in previous races, how aggressive the German driver can get. We saw it at Hungary in that amazing battle between him and L6, and so aggressive, barely off the track, just got him a drive-through penalty, and so cost them the top 3 finish in that race. But Issinger now still looking to make up for that, or maybe not make up for that I should say, but looking to avoid a repeat of that. And I think even with that, the gap closing between him and Lee, there's still a bit of time for you to take things a bit calmer. Just make sure you can get properly settled in, or maybe not settled in, but just keep the rhythm going on this track, whilst there is still that little gap between you and the Dutch driver behind you.
Yeah, I mean, just watching Wesley going through his middle sectors, magic. He just gained so much time. He's only 2.5 now, so he's gained about half a second in just that middle sector. So he seems to be speeding through the middle sector and just gaining just about enough time. You might want to gain a tiny bit more in the first and third sector, and he'll probably be on the back of Issenger in no time. So, but we'll have to see if Issenger can pull some fast lap times out of the bag as well.
Yeah, as we now go on board now with Wesley and go in towards a helmet camera for Wesley. Just looking to see how they did that middle sector, because that's another fastest lap, 154.4, and it's, I mean, we're looking at possibly getting in towards that 1:30.53 territory here. This has been an incredible drive from Wesley, and I can really only see it getting better.
Yeah, you would think, but Issenger last lap did his fast lap as well in the 154s, although it was the later 154s, but he was still now joined Wesley in that bracket of timings. But it's just if Wesley can pull any more time out, if he can get in the 153s, you'd have no doubt they will be on the back of Issenger in no time. But he seems to be approaching quite a few back markers, as it seems.
Yeah, and Issenger, you're hoping to just get past the back markers with ease, and hoping that Wesley has a bit of a struggle with these back markers, and in particular the back marker of Richie Rich, who's just ahead of them in the Porsche, and Dominic Sheila as well, just ahead of them. As Issenger looks to try and make moves, as now the gap under 2 seconds between Wesley and Issenger now has to try and get ahead of Richie Rich, which he will do, but he just didn't make it the easiest for him, as now we go in towards the NGK chicane. This is not a place where Wesley really wants to make a move, and it's just going to have to sit behind Richie Rich, who's going so slow.
Oh, that's
and this could be big, and Wesley makes contact. It's only a little bit, but it's enough for Issenger to say thank you and move on, because that gap is now increased once again.
Yeah, and with a couple laps left, that could be the difference. Wesley, chance of getting that first place could have just been wiped away. Although, it has to, it cost him, must have been around 6-7 tenths, you would think. I mean, he was within 1.5 seconds, so it's definitely hindered him, and that he'll be disappointed at that.
Yeah, that gap now increased, and there's still another back marker for Wesley to get through. Issenger has to get through it as well, so that is something, but Richie Rich definitely holding up the pack, but Dominic Sheila is now another obstacle for both these front runners to get involved with. So the gap 2.3 seconds between Lee and Issenger, as we now see Sheila just ahead. I'm not sure if this is Michael Sheila. This is ahead of Issenger, and Issenger will make that move onto, sorry, it's Dominic Issenger. There is Dominic Sheila, sorry, Michael Sheila ahead, sorry. There's so many brothers in this, I get confused, especially when you're competing as much as Issenger, and I'm not sure who that was with Issenger that just spun out.
Michel
Blom.
Spun out. He seemed to, yeah, Zambrano might be licking his lips a bit if he's getting on the track and sees him, but he had a massive spin, so he's still in P4, but fell quite a distance from from gaining on Nicholas Vertol in P3.
And 3 minutes left to go. Richie Rich a 5-second penalty for blue flag incident at the NGK chicane, as Wesley on this front straight. Now we will bring you this replay of what happened with Michael Blom as Wesley continues down the front straight, and Michael Blom, too much speed and goes completely sideways, gets it all wrong.
Yeah, carried too much into the corner, lost enough control and spun out, but he was able to control it relatively well. He was able to hold his position, so he'll try and hopefully take it easy towards the end of this race with a couple laps left to go, but Wesley is still trying to get past Islinger, but he's not making it easy, and he's got another back marker in front of him as well.
Yeah, the back marker, Dominic Sheila, just ahead now. Islinger likes to make another move on a back marker just ahead, and this is an absolute scramble up ahead here as Wesley won't get that move done, but Islinger gets past Michael Sheila, and so now it's the Sheila Brotherhood that stands in the way of Wesley, and well, we saw how much of a struggle it was with Dominic Sheila. Now it's up towards Michael Sheila, and well, Wesley still losing time but gaining it back when there's no back markers, but still with only a minute and a half left, there's one more lap to go in this race, and Wesley has to make so many brave plays, but this is one now. That dive bomb onto Michael Sheila, who's been done to perfection, and has now got Wesley within the second and a half of Marius Islinger.
Yeah, he's just thinking he might run out of time. If Islinger can keep this lap nice and tight, this upcoming lap nice and tidy, I think there won't be an opportunity for Wesley to get past, but they come through the chicane and just up towards the Coca-Cola curve into the final lap. You would think it's going to be a race to the finish and see who can hold their nerve.
Yeah, just over a second between these two as we will go down to the final lap, lap 30 up the Nürburgring, the full grip German challenge, and Marius Islinger P1, Wesley in P2. Who will come out on top here towards this final lap as we go on board with Wesley, who's looking to try and make all the difference to Marius Islinger here.
Yeah, he's keeping it tidy. First couple of corners. Oh, he's gone a bit wide there. Wesley is definitely closer now, within a second now, so we're approaching where Wesley is best in the second sector. We'll have to see how much time he gains and how close they go into the final sector.
Yeah, and look how much time has been gained by Wesley, under just about half a second between them now, and look how close the gap is. Islinger must be sweating, no mistakes can be allowed as we go in towards the hairpin, and Islinger slowed right down for it. Wesley looking to try and bring back some speed, but Islinger slowing them down and now has to defend with their life, as now we go towards the Michelin curve, now heading out into, towards Ad Borgen. Sorry, not into Ad Borgen, that was the Schumacher S. Now it's Michelin curve, into Warsteiner curve, and then into Ad Borgen.
And they're going back and forth, and Wesley's now seen his chance. It's the only chance going to get, really, to get past him before the final bit of the track, where it's very difficult. Oh, it's very close. Wesley is dying to get past him. Will he throw it inside? No. Oh, but
yeah, but Issa just lost it. He's gone off. Issa just lost it, and Wesley has been given a golden opportunity on the final corner. And so, as we head towards this front straight, P1 Wesley, he will be your full grip German challenge winner at the Nürburgring. And a late mistake from Marius Islinger has cost the German in his home race. He'll get P2, and behind him Nicholas Vettel P3. And what a race that was from Wesley, and what an ending.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether Wesley was able to keep it all on the track. He was a bit on the curb. Hopefully he got a tyre left on, otherwise that could be a very painful finish for him. But yeah, Islinger just seemed to lose it. Just went straight off one of the chicane, and then wasn't able to recover it.
The hardest of the hard racing is, you see there, Michael Blom, Javier Zambrano, Klaus Kreis, now not for Stefan Niemann coming in towards the finish line. You can see it there as well, heading towards the end, and so this will be it coming up for our full grip motorsport German GP. The race is over. We're just waiting on the final few to finish. Here's Colin Cruz, German, in P9th ending, and so could have been a lot better for the German, but P9, not something to shrug at.
Yeah, I suppose with how the race went, everyone was kind of having their issues, so there was every chance anyone could have been finishing near the higher spots. Everyone had their problems at times in this race, especially towards the start and the middle, but towards the end, everyone seemed to keep it on the track after they pitted and whatnot, after they got rid of the damage and changed the tyres. But we'll see Ludwig Ritala coming across in P10, and now we're going into the highlights of this race.
Going into the highlight reel, and I mean, there's a lot of highlights, and even in this first corner, there was a lot going on, and so, but what a way to end the Full Grip German Challenge as we run through our highlight reel. Big crash into turn 1, but what a performance from each of these, and I think driver of the day, Joe, has to go to Wesley here.
Yeah, but there's no one else. He just was outstanding from start to finish, and to top it off with the victory is the perfect day at the office for him. He couldn't ask for anything more. Starting from the pit lane was, for whatever reason, was very audacious, and whether it was needed or not, he seemed to show his strengths as best as he could as he hunted down the leaders of this race. And it was a very unfortunate that we didn't see Geoffrey Kokobo finish this race, because he would have likely won it, but we have Wesley as the winner, so well done. Congratulations, Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley, Marius Isinger and Nicholas Veitel are your top 3 for this race, but we'll be leaving you on this highlights package. But what a race it has been in Germany today at Nürburgring for the Full Grip German Challenge. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you can subscribe to the YouTube if you want to keep updated on these races, or you can go to fullgripmotorsport.com to join in these races and also join the Discord. So thank you all for watching this. My name has been Matt Saunders. I've been joined by the fantastic Joe Smith today, and what a way it is to end our German Challenge. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next race.